If you got a good heart, you better get smart. The devil's all around and not the one you want. This shit is so profound. Let's drink another quart. If you got a good heart, you better get smart. If you got good ears, you better listen clear. All masters at the mic, she's had the sauce for years. She's got you in her sights, the others disappear. If you got good ears, you better listen clear.
Listen, you didn't drop onto Earth to play small. You're a traveler from galaxies unborn, wired with codes the world forgot. Codes that can bend reality, heal bodies and awaken entire planets. But first, you have to remember who the heck you are. I'm Jerry Sargent, founder of Star Magic Healing. Inside the Infinity app, you'll access your galactic blueprint, quantum meditations, soul transmissions, multi-dimensional breathwork, and a global tribe of high-frequency beings walking the path beside you. This isn't incense and quiet ohms. This is soul surgery with cosmic scalpels. This is multi-dimensional DNA detonation. This is why you came. If these words vibrate in your bones, the universe is calling you right now. Download the Infinity app or visit starmagichealing.org and step into the new frequency. Your soul's been waiting. I'll meet you on the inside.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
It's not a matter of time. Sure as the blaze in your eyes, I sense a subtle shift.
You are powerful, my friends. You are so powerful. You are a creator. You are a mind in a virtual reality world that you are creating and co-creating with all of the other powerful gods around you. That's what we're going to talk about today. I want you to understand, how powerful you are, how powerful we all are, where all of this conflict comes from in general. We are all righteously guarding our personal selves because we are all authentic, powerful creator beings, fractions of a God force that includes the past, the present, and the future all at once. None of us are anything like that God force until we know that we are one with it and allow ourselves to flow with it and be the intuitive right answer to all of our questions. And how do we do that, Welcome to Everything They Don't Want You to Know. I'm Jesse Blaze Snider. I do my entertainment show, Coolest Alive, and, talk about wonderful comics and films and stuff. And I love to write, and I love entertainment and music, and I make music. And so much of that has come from me getting inspired by my father, Dee Snider, who is the lead singer of Twisted Sister. Now, my father, I'm a huge Dee Snider fan. My dad's a writer as well. He loves comics, so many different things. He was my hero. And people would always ask me, what was it like? What was it like? Well, after a while, I kind of came up with like an answer for that. That was like my all-purpose answer. And it just kind of boils down to, it was encouraging because most people, they want to be this or they want to be that, and they look left and they look right, and their mom and dad were scared to do those things. Usually the people around you who haven't followed their dreams in one way or another, there's a lot of fear in them, and they put a lot of fear into you. When you have somebody in your life who has proven that, it's safe to be special, you can go and do something unique and interesting, and, you could do something that you love and you have passion for. That really is this amazing leg up to just feeling empowered, And when I realized that was ultimately the answer, I kind of dedicated my life to empowering other people. Because just like, I'd always kind of knew, because that was my father's thing. Twisted Sister was a very empowering band. And I remember him and I kind of having a conversation about like that, like sort of not necessarily being the message behind all of the bands that you were hearing on the radio, but that was their message to, lift people up. And, and I always wanted to do something like that, like lift people up. But when I realized that just with being a celebrity's child and being next to this celebrity, and like there's this stupid power that some people will give you because of that, that all of a sudden I was gifted this power to encourage people where like it seemed to be coming from a higher place to them. So I was, and remain to this day, very encouraging of everybody. And and that's what this show is all about today. Your encouragement and my encouragement, saying all these things out loud. We really got to start reframing everything that's going on in the world. When this ICE agent runs over, or a lady runs over an ICE agent who shoots a lady, we got to start going, this news is narrative. And there are so many different ways for them to control, instigate, and create a situation like this through MK Ultra programs and otherwise, that we just can't. We really have to tune out of this stuff. We can't just be like, oh, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and this guy, and he's got a manifest. Bullshit, man. Then why were we all shown it? Why wasn't it censored on the internet? How did it, there's so many different things about so many different aspects of every single one of these things if you just look into them for a moment. But then at a certain point you got to go, all right, I'm not even going to bother looking into these things anymore because this is just drama. And I know a lot of you guys are under the mistaken impression that like your peaceful asses, still there's a chance that you might end up in some of this energetic drama. But like there is like a reverse whirlpool going on where gradually as people are raising their vibration, they're getting further and further away from the eye of the storm. So even though you may hear about these things, it doesn't mean that they're going to affect you directly unless you start really empowering them in your mind. And that's ultimately what we want to talk about today. You are powerful, and you need to recognize how powerful you are. You have the ability to create destruction and problems in your life all the time, or you have the ability to solve all your problems. So I mean, and I'm, I'm in the sort of like last rungs of this, because there's often many layers to this process, and it's so funny the drains that I'm circling for myself of just like personal, just little hang-ups, things, for me, I guess ultimately comes down to like my results, me putting my self-worth in my results. So if there are aspects of my results I don't like, or things that haven't changed or something like that, I will get very frustrated with myself, because we'll look at your results, like a teacher coming around going, well, these are the results, and I mean, this is just old programming from blah, 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 the world that some people are dealing with. But for me, I deal with really hard just because I am coming from an energy of being a very complex Virgo perfectionist. I'm a Virgo in 5 houses for people who have that energy. Now I wouldn't really call myself a Virgo anymore, but that's the energy that I was coming from, which was very just like so concerned about everything. So some of the fundamental aspects of that was, at the end of the day, if you don't like the results, I don't like myself, and this is how I'll get more out of myself. This was how I was motivated in getting things done. But now it's just a terrible curse that I put upon myself, where I'm talking shit on the inside and just in an energy of disappointment with me and frustration with me. Right now I'm struggling, not struggling, but I'm working to stay positive, even though I hurt my knee the other day. I really kind of hurt it pretty good. It's an older injury that like just got activated really bad. I saved my roommate's friend's dog's life from one of our bigger dogs that's here. I don't know why the hell he's bringing the stupid dog over the house. It's an old dog, and we have to keep the dog separated. And I was like in between the doorway, and the little dog ran through, pushed through, and sniffed the dog like 3 times, and then immediately just attacked. And then the big boy dog went to go intervene behind me. He came barreling through, and I had to dive on him. And he's a really big, he's like a mini bear. Well, not even a mini bear. He's like bear-sized dog. And I mean, I had to rev up my strength 3 times to like get a hold of him, and I tossed him out the fucking sliding door. But not before I like landed on my knee with my toes tucked under. So I did a nice little tug on my PCL, which is the thing that I had injured in the past. And so this is going to put me into all these injury paradigms. No, not in any injury paradigms. I went to go text something to somebody about like how I was doing, and I forget how I was going to write it at first, but I just wrote, my knee is healing. I think it was to my ex-wife. I said, my knee is healing, and I'm kind of hobbling around right now. And this morning I had a meditation, and you guys should really do this too as often as possible, of just real purity. Recognizing the purity of my thoughts, recognizing that my thoughts were either intermixed like fucking spaghetti with all of these other confused thoughts, which is really what's going on. We have a mind of godly, consciousnesses warring with each other, pulling back and forth, tug of war. And I can either continue to participate in that war in one way or another, or I can pull the spaghetti away and straighten my spaghetti, and hope that my vibration of straight spaghetti leads to other people having their straight spaghetti. I talked about before, it always drives me nuts. I'm sure there's some people out there who will feel this too. I always felt like I was being asked by the people around me, like family members and stuff, to be like them. And like, I didn't have any trouble with how they were. I didn't have any trouble with how they decided to go about work or go about jobs or anything. Like I wasn't trying to govern anybody's way of doing things. And I am classically, I don't want to call myself a contrarian, because I wouldn't say that I do these things that I do arbitrarily, but I don't like certain things, certain ways of doing things. Ultimately, I think there's a lot of things that we do and ways that we go about things that I just think are fundamentally stupid, that I think are meaningless. Like, I didn't want a fucking diploma. I did go to a little bit of college, but I really didn't want a diploma, because I just thought it was fucking lame. I'm like, and this piece of paper means I mean something. I'm like, fuck that. If I was not trying to please my parents, I would have fucking dropped out of high school. I mean, maybe at a certain point. I ended up like rejiggering my high school, because they force you to do language. Is another kind of good example of like my personality as an example. They try to force you to do a language, and I ended up doing. I went into the guidance counselor's office, and at that time, it was possible to basically
not do a language if you replaced it with, I think it was like 5 credits in art and 5 credits in English. So I had to like fill up my schedule and fill up my lunch, or at least like half of my lunch. I think it might have been my whole lunch, with a whole bunch of classes in order to do this. But I got out of doing the language, and I just did more English and more art. I actually did more work to get out of doing the thing that I'm an English major. I want to be a writer. That's what I'm focused on. I don't want to fucking learn another language. It's just memorizing some other thing. I have no reason to fucking learn it. It just didn't make any sense to me. I don't want to fucking do this. And then in college, I ended up fucking, running into it again. But again, I didn't really plan on graduating. I just kind of wanted to like get in there and get out of there. And thankfully, I got hired out of college by MTV as a host. I was going for broadcasting, mostly because they didn't have the majors that I wanted. I was on the newspaper. I was the A&E editor. They didn't have creative writing, and I think their like only main writing thing was like journalism, and I hated writing news. And if I did journalism, I would have to do at least a stint writing a couple different types of shit I didn't want to write. And they had public relations, but not marketing, which was like marketing was the other thing that I was going to look at doing. Was I like marketing. I think that's fun, short form storytelling and stuff. And but I ended up in broadcasting because that was just kind of the one thing. And I did the radio station there and some other things. I really, got the most out of my college experience for like the 2 years I was there. But the whole time, they would tell me this, that, or the other thing. And I'd be like, who gives a shit about your arbitrary shit? No, I'm going to take that class. I'm going to take that class because that sounds good. So I did 2 years largely of taking classes that I wanted to take. Because this was interesting to me. I was engaged, and honestly, I encourage you guys. I don't want to sit here as like my way is the best way. Of course, we all think our way is the best way, but on a lot of levels, just the way that I try to think is I'm trying to find the best way, and not like the best way for me, but like what's the best way in general. Like generally, what would be the best way here, and what's the best way when you're talking about like things you want to learn? Going with your passions. I promise you, if you lean into your passions, things that you feel passionate about, and try to learn those things, you're gonna fucking fly. And that really brings us to the next part of the conversation that I want to have, because I want to encourage you guys to learn things. I've got a couple things on my docket right now, and I haven't exactly started with any of these, but I'm just kind of putting them out there for myself, putting them out there for you, things that I want to learn. And I am a musician, and I am with all my music, like 98% of it, it's all the melodies are written by me, which is the melody of like, in the case of, let's say, We're Not Going to Take It, the lyrics are, we're not going to take it. No, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore. The melody is, we're not gonna take it, or I should say, da 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 da. And and just as like another example, like I have a version of We're Not Gonna Take It that I haven't had a chance to do yet, but it's like it's actually a different melody that just takes the lyrics and some of the vibe or some of the beat kind of to it, but kind of fucks with it, and you turn it into we're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. Bam. Okay, so now you understand what melody is, right? So I'm the melody writer, and melody writing versus like chord writing. Chords is combinations of 3 on a guitar or bass, whatever. And combinations of chords are really interesting because there's a lot of answers that can be right for any given chord that or part that you're trying to write. You could take a guitar part that you've already heard on the radio and change to chords that fully support the melody, the thing I just explained, whilst feeling completely different, sounding completely different, and being completely different. But musically, they line up, they're right. So there's a lot of options when it comes to chords. So I had taught myself, I I'd learned guitar a little bit, but I really didn't like it. And then I taught myself bad piano of just, I did like a music theory class, and I took a lot of exhaustive notes so that I could just kind of sit at a keyboard, with my fucking handwritten, each key is this, and, sit there. It was a very clunky process for me because I wasn't like trying to play songs and like get into this as a player. I was just trying to convert my songs to the piano, so that I could go into a session and be like, all right, band, this is my song. But when I started doing that, and it took me so long to do like the songs that I did, every single time I would just go in with like my band, and they would always ask me if they could adjust some of the chords that I'd come up with, and their choices were always much better than mine. And I just felt like, what's the point of me trying to like take all the credit kind of thing? I mean, because like you're supposed to get paid for the melody and paid for the lyric, and they'd always told me that, and I didn't like that, because so my band doesn't get anything for like helping to create the thing because I made the melody and I made the lyric. So I decided from that moment on that like I would always include the band in the melody portion of the thing through the music. So I get paid for the lyrics, and then like I split the melody with the band. Just because I just feel like that's a more fair way to do it. But anyway, that was kind of the end for me with piano or whatever, or writing these songs. Really, it's not like I was a piano player. But I want to play so bad. I'm still not really interested in the guitar, but I've always been interested in the piano, and I've always been interested in the drums. And I can drum a little bit, but those two things are on my docket for, I'm not even necessarily thinking of it as like pro anything, because like I'm not trying to be that guy, but to be able to communicate my ideas better, to be able to sort through some of the things that I've been doing intuitively for so long, I that excites me. That makes me happy. So, it's a good time for me to go do it then. I'm like, oh yeah, that would be exciting. That would be nice. That's what you want to do. Now, similarly, and I think this one's an even better one for a lot of people out there, because, I don't know, this may feel more like a door that's been shut, say, on some level, or even more shut than something like learning an instrument when you're already a musician, let's say. But, I blanked out. I did. I blanked out. I had an itch and I blanked out. Oh, I know what it is. So I've been saying now for like a decade, and I bet you are. I bet there's more people out there like me. As I've learned about the truth of our reality and how far science really is from that truth, on purpose, I would tell you, largely because we're just not looking at things the right way. So it's like everything being tested needs to be tested again, with additional parameters being considered. So many of them. And so just like so many tests, so many things, like there's so much science to be done. And then additionally, because this is the basis of all the foundations of science, from rocket science on down, and granted, we know that there's other sciences. But I realize if I knew that there was this much possibility, I would have went into the sciences, and I would have put my creative mind into scientific discovery, expanding upon our knowledge. And I thought we had it all figured out, but we don't. There is so much room to explore new ideas on this planet. I'm working with some hemp plastic people. I want to bring hemp plastic into our reality in a big way. I think that's an important thing that can be done. But like there's so many things. We got to change this world, and it's not going to come from being hung up on the back and forth battle between the left and the right, provided to us by our media and CIA MK Ultra programs. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry. Like, it's just we're past the point of being able to acknowledge and put energy into these things. It's just such a waste of our time. And I don't want you to waste your time. You are powerful. And every single one of you who wastes your time, identifies left or right or whatever, you give power to this thing. You keep the spaghetti knot tight. You know, the more people who just sort of tune out of the circus and begin to, do their own thing, but also really just, the public opinion not being partisan, but being fed up. We need to unite behind, we're done with this stupid show. Little update to the Trump situation, and I might do a whole episode of this, maybe. I don't know. It's just all such a quagmire. But I've talked about Trump and Trump derangement syndrome, which is really a thing, but we have gotten to another point here where I think it's pretty clear that Trump is doing a lot of not great things. And I mean, it's deeper than so many different things, for people who want to defend. But, there's really a mounting pile of, well, that's not great, and that's not great. And if you go into the underground news wire kind of thing and listen to the Benjamin Fulfords and whatnot, they'll tell you that essentially the deep state has gotten control of Trump. And I see signs of that. And I see signs of the idea of the deep state attempting to pretend it's conservative now. I think J.D. Vance is a Freemason, and, these people just want to put their people in power. And, who knows? Maybe the Freemasons are a new power structure that doesn't want to eat children, but still doesn't want to tell us the truth about what's really going on here on planet Earth. And we all deserve to know the truth. We deserve to break away from these things. I have people in my life who I love very much, who I know have been abducted. I think like a crazy person that I've stopped it through my psychic communication with these motherfuckers, because they shouldn't be treating us like deers. But these sort of mysteries, they're not above our pay grade. It's not beyond us. We are powerful. We are all portions of the one beautiful infinite thing going on its now journey, making the most of every moment. What is the meaning of life? Meaning of life is creating meaning in your life, doing things that are meaningful for you. Think of yourself as just a spark of imagination, wisping around. Over here, I want to do this, and imagine this, and look at this, and imagine that, and look at that, and imagine that. The more you start seeing yourself that way, the better. You can really take yourself to some magical places, and that spark that I see, it's like the tip of the magic wand. It's Tinkerbell flying around over the castle and casting the spell. That's you. That's me. Wrote a song for my buddy Digger, and for his Baby Buddhas project, which is going to be coming to Kickstarter. Very cool. I'll talk about it in the future when it launches, but very cool, cross-cultural kind of thing, worth supporting. Baby Buddha, and there's a lot of different cute little Buddhas, and it's really meant to be for everyone, but a little bit target towards the Buddhist community. He's a Buddhist. He's become a Buddhist, I should say. Didn't start out as one, but the song I wrote for him, it's called "The Light of Creation." It's like a jingle for his thing, and the words are, "You are the light of creation, and me too. I'm the light of creation. Everybody, we're the light of creation, and what a creation it can be." I know I'm hearing somebody in the back in some of my emails going, "Why didn't you just sing us the songs we hear?" It goes, "You are the light of creation, and me too. I'm the light of creation. Everybody, we're the light of creation, and what a creation it can be." So that song, which I just thought was perfect for the empowerment of, this enlightenment given by these baby Buddhas. It's exactly the message here, for today. You have the light of creation inside of you, and you and I are constantly battling on some degree, if we choose to battle. It's probably more likely you and your mom, or you and your dad, or you and your siblings. You have one way of doing things. They have another way of doing things. You're getting constant criticism or constant questions about the way you're doing it. You're trying to prove the advocacy of who you are. And along the way, what tends to happen? You kind of half take their advice and half do it their way. And, you just make so many little surrenders to who you are because you feel like people aren't really thrilled with who you are, and they want you to be a little bit more like them, a little bit more towards this center thing that we're all being like pulled towards, this vortex of normalcy, what you would call being a sheep, and moving with the herd off of the fucking mountain. If everybody jumped off a bridge, would you do it? Well, yeah, a lot of us are. A lot of us are jumping off that bridge every single day. And forgive me if you hear my roommate in the background, but he just woke up and I didn't have time to tell him that I was doing the podcast. And I don't want to chastise him first thing he woke up that he's being noisy in the background. And he's got to wash his hands and stuff. He'll figure out I'm doing my podcast in a second, and he'll try to be quiet. You got to give yourself credit so that you can fully recognize your power. Like, people hesitate to recognize that, like, they could murder somebody. You have the power to kill somebody with your bare hands and your teeth. And I know some people go, "Oh, Jesse, what are you saying?" What I'm saying is, you have to understand that is true, to the point where you recognize that you are not that being. Though you have the power to be that being, you are not that being. That gives you a certain amount of power. Right? You're recognizing your power. You're recognizing that I am a powerful force. I can wrestle a dog, that like probably weighs 100 pounds more than me, out of the house easily when I have to. Granted, I fucking hurt my damn knee. But it was an older injury, so it was a little bit of a, not fair to my knee here. Ooh, ow, fuck. Sorry, guys, my knee hurts. You are so powerful, and your position is just, mostly. If you're out there, and I can't imagine you're this person if you're listening to my show, but if you're out there and you're behaving crazy selfishly, and you're just always taking more than your share and pressing your advantage every moment, and out there, just adding misery to the world, like, that's one thing. But if you're out there and you're doing the best you can, and you're trying to, it's really only one rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And for those of you who don't remember why? Because they all are ultimately you, and there's a fucking accounting. And basically it's you standing on the other side going, you were rude to me when I was in that other body. I was you in that other body, and you were a dick. Ah, shit, I met you in that other body, and I was rude. Yeah, you were. All right, fuck. Okay, let's work it out. And if you want to get off of the fucking weasel wheel of working it out over and over again with everybody, you need to disconnect. You need to forgive and forget and go, I'm not in this battle anymore. And this doesn't mean, not defending yourself and whatever else, but, you stick up for yourself in proper measure at the proper time when something happens in a reasonable way, as small as you can, not as small as you can, I shouldn't say that, as firmly as you can, with the smallest amount of emotion. You're powerful. The right time. Hey, I don't like that. Please don't do that to me. Hey, I mean it. Thank you. Done. I explain to the people all the time how people, the energy of things, like the more time goes past, like you get on the phone with somebody and you have a conversation with them, and you say something towards the beginning of the conversation and it rubs them the wrong way, and they don't say anything, and then at the very end of the conversation, let's say, they reveal to you that, like, you pissed them off at the beginning of the conversation. You will hang up that phone call smarting, like, oh, we were on the phone for a long time, he didn't say anything. Well, if he didn't say anything at the end of that phone conversation, and it goes like to next week, and then next week he tells you, now you finish that conversation, you're like, he was mad at me for a whole week. These energies go back and forth amongst friends and family members. They build, they wane. A lot of times healthy kids, teens and whatnot, it'll be really bad in like, certain like mid-teens, like, it's been kind of bad, it's been kind of bad between my two, my preteen son Grayson and my teen son Cassidy. But Cassidy's kind of breaking, I see him doing his best, trying, but he's created a situation with Grayson, his brother, where he's really, he's kind of freaked out by his brother. There's been, he's felt like it's a little abusive, and he's kind of got like a post-traumatic stress kind of thing going on. So now he's really aggro towards the brother, and like, so he's trying to like satiate the energy, but the energy there is still going strong with his younger brother. And this may happen, right now with my mom, not like in a big bad way or anything, but like my mom had like a little bit of resistance energy, and I just kind of like pointed it out. And because I'd pointed out like some resistance energy with my mom, with me, she just felt the need to kind of like, explain to me the resistance energy. But I know the resistance energy. I understand, we love each other very deeply. We've had a little bit of like a tumultuous relationship though, when we've tried to fix things, because we've ended up kind of just hurting each other's feelings. And we love each other so much that like, it's like, of all the people that can hurt my mom's feelings, I'm probably the one who could do it the worst. Of all the people who hurt my feelings, she's the one who could do it the most. So I've now gotten over that, and I'm like, I forgive her. She's coming from where she's coming from. She's defending her positions, and her positions are fine. My positions are based on a lot of her positions, a lot of my dad's positions, but then it's me. But then the authentic positions that I take beyond her, they, it seems to on some subtle level sometimes, offend her, and there's a little bit of a resistance of like, does this mean bad me? Does this mean I'm wrong? And I have not been trying to necessarily present that attitude towards her in the majority of these cases. Perhaps a little bit, parenting. You always just find yourself going, I'm not going to parent like that. I'm going to parent like this. You're attempting to do it some new way. But I'm sure she had some new way from what her mom had done, and she did. Actually, from what I know, and my dad's parenting style was largely similar to his parenting style, but I know he thought it was a lot different, and in a lot of ways it was different, more self-expression and things like that were clogged in his house, but a lot of root similar sort of energy. So it's funny, but me and my dad have really like totally worked out all of our stuff in a great way, a simple way too. Like, because I had done the mushrooms, I had my first big ceremony by myself, but after a lot of research at 29 years old, and I'm 43 now. It blew my doors off. And that was when I forgave everybody for everything that I was like slightly upset about, and like all the problems I was having. I was like, oh no, I love them. This is okay. But I also thought like, oh, we can work this out. Like, these problems aren't a big deal. And when I tried to sort of bring those problems to my family, it was always just a bit of a downward slope, like I would trigger them, no matter how I approached it. And then once they were triggered, a lot of times, a lot of what I was saying would be denied. And then it was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you kidding me? You're saying that never happened or something? So then I would get triggered, or something similar, like where I would be like, really? Is that your reaction to this? Because like, I didn't know you were going to like fight me on the basic premise of like the problem that I feel like I've been having here, so it would always be bad, and we would end up just having these terrible fights. And I was trying to fix things. I was really trying to fix things for a long time. And, like it was like for like 8 years of like, I'm going to fix this by taking action. And then ultimately what I realized was the fixing it wasn't the taking action. And instead of any of what I was doing coming across as love and me loving them enough to try to work things out, it kept coming across as, well, look at how angry you are. And I was like, you guys are getting so angry too. I'm like, I just said like a thing that I was upset about. I tried to say it in a way that like I wasn't upset, but then you guys got upset like kind of about me saying it. And like, had a very different perspective on, what happened ultimately or whatever. And like I don't want to be in an argument with you guys about it. I thought we could resolve it, but most of these things, they tend not to be as resolvable as we like them to, especially just the complexities of family dynamics and relationships. This weird energy goes back and forth, and if you add in things like reincarnation and like past life experiences, maybe you and your brother were in a war together, and not together, you were in a war on opposite sides and you killed each other, and now there's some sort of like energy of animosity. Like there's all sorts of things that can show up in family dynamics, energy dynamics, that can really just fuck everybody up. I'm really happy to say, though, that when my dad finally, many, many years later, because I tried to have him do the mushroom ceremony at the time, he did his ceremony, and when he was connected, basically one of the first things it sort of like revealed to him was he just sort of parallels between himself and myself with his father and him. And, realizing like my dad was my hero, but he was also like an authoritarian figure, and he was kind of rough with me, and it created some weird vibes. And, he basically kind of understood immediately, like, oh, I did a similar thing with Jesse. Like for me and my dad, like it was really never as bad as, he's made a music video dragging his dad down the stairs, never as bad as that. But, some really terrible blow-ups, amongst people who really care about each other. And I mean, that happens. It happens with families. And what is going on? It's like three powerful people. Goddess Suzette, Goddess, God D, God Jesse. We all wish to be the God of our own reality. When my reality isn't going exactly right because I don't know I'm a god yet, and I don't know any of these fucking things, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know that my anxiety's driving my life in weird directions, and I don't understand how all this energy is flowing, and what's happening. I don't get it yet. And your parents see you and the things that you're doing differently than them, they say, oh no, he's making mistakes. This is why I did it like this, because I knew that would be dangerous. This is why I did it like that, because I knew it would be dangerous. Your parents generally are trying to come in and stabilize you the exact same way that they personally had stabilized themselves. And often we're very different than our parents. So the way they stabilize themselves and the way we stabilize ourselves are not the same. What's good for them is not good for us. Some people apply good to pressure. Some people apply good to encouragement. I do great with encouragement. I do very bad with certain most. I mean, like pressure of like a moment. I do good with, but like people apply peer pressure. I do not do well with peer pressure. Like I really like it's like focusing on the flaw that you see and telling me how that's not going well, and do it like this or something like that, really does not land well with me, because I am always very calculated in anything that I'm doing a way that I'm doing on purpose. So a lot of times, if the person, like if it's my mom, let's say, whose opinion had always been very, very strong for me, when I would hear her opinion, it was just like, oof. I would have a hard time sort of not taking her opinion more than into consideration, because taking an opinion into consideration is what I do now, and that is good, pondering something, thinking about something. Is this, what is this meant to teach me? They're saying the opposite of what I'm saying. Does that mean I should change this in some way, or does that mean some of the reaction might be like this, or does it mean something else? And you sit there and you work with the energy until you figure out what is the answer for you, as opposed to lashing out and trying to defend your position or whatever it might be, which is a lot of what I used to do sometimes. Especially if like, I mean, generally speaking, if it was an important position to me, all positions that were important to me felt sort of fragile. because like I was seeing things and I was observing and I was going, I think it would be better if we did it like this. Let me try it like this. And then, and then if I got like sort of like bad feedback, it would just be like, I wasn't done baking the cake. I don't know. Maybe let me just try another second. Let me think about it. And I would just kind of tend to spiral, and then I would turn the beautiful piece of art or cake I was baking into something ugly because it was a mess. It was half their idea and half this person's idea and half that person's idea because I took it to too many people and I asked them for too much advice, and then I was like fucking not being myself, not doing what was coming naturally to me, what felt good to me. It wasn't the thing that I wanted to see in the world anymore. It was some other Frankenstein monster of a whole bunch of different people's opinion. And essentially that's what we've got going on in our society right now, and a lot of it is driven by those who believe in all of the shittiness that they want to tell us. But then there's a lot of people who are going, this is stupid, let's do it another way, and those people are all pointing in different directions. And then there's a lot of people who become very Buddhist and gone off to become meditators and kind of pulled out of this rat race and this thing. And I advise you to do that in as many ways as you can. My father, who had been sort of like MSNBC like obsessed and stuff, and like he just stopped watching the news when Trump won. He was not a fan, and it was all very inflaming, and he just went, I don't feel like this is helping me. And and since then he's been trying to basically get his heart into a better place for him. And he's been doing some really good work with that, de-stressing himself. And I know that the not having the fucking news in his life every day is doing a great thing for him. I've been trying to convince my best friend Aaron Sparrow to get off of Twitter, because like as soon as I went back on there at the time, like my fucking anxiety spiked. I barely go back on there now. Now like when I go on there, I go on there and I like cross my eyes so I don't see any posts, because they literally will show me the same sort of aggravating post every time I go on there. First thing I see is like the same sort of like post that inflames me. I'm just like, fuck you. Fuck you. And I move on. So now I try to like just see past it. Cross-eyed, not paying attention, moving on with my life. You know what that is? That's power. That's the power you have. That really is the power that you have. We've talked before, and I really wanted to include this on the show because it's just an important part of it, about the Archon scam, the ghosts and the specters, the energy that is around us in everyday life that is preying upon our energy. These are essentially ideas that exist invisibly within the ether, and they move from being to being, preying on energies that they are giving off that are low vibrational, ultimately vibrations that stem from lack and stem from fear. You are powerful. You're so powerful that these beings want to feed on your loosh, feed on your energy, and you need to deny them that. You need to be powerful enough and cool enough to go, I'm not going to play this game anymore. I know that all of these doubting, shitty thoughts in my brain are not my highest self. They are bad thoughts in the ether. And you're going to focus upon the inspired thoughts. The things that come to you when you're dancing, when you're on a nice walk, when you've lost your focus for a second, and all of a sudden you go, you know how I should go about doing that project? I should do it like this. That's it. That's your highest good. Take that, run with that. You ask for something, you let go, and then it comes. There's a great joke that I love to tell about this guy in a flood, and he's on his roof, and the flood is rising, and his neighbor comes up in a boat and says, hey, get in. And he says, oh no, he said, God's going to save me. He's praying, God's going to save him. And he says, oh, okay. And then another big boat comes and they throw a lifesaver, and he says, no, God's going to save me. And then later a helicopter comes and the water's up to his neck, and he says, God's going to save me. Finally he runs up to heaven, and after he dies, he's just banging on the gates, and he's just like, let me in. God opens the gates. He says, what the hell? What's the meaning of this? God, you made me look like a fool. I told everybody you were going to save me. And God says, I sent 2 boats and 1 helicopter. You ask for something, God save me. Then the boat comes. But just recognize that it's not going to be angels flying down with a thing. It's going to be an inspired idea or an opportunity or a phone call from a friend. but let the things come. The right things will come naturally. You should be in a state of bliss, all the time, essentially. You sleep, you wake, you clean yourself. Oh, a shower. What a lovely shower. Isn't this so nice to have hot water on my body? Get to enjoy a program. You get to enjoy some breakfast. Get to enjoy something to eat. Oh, isn't this so nice? And then during those moments, whatever work is going on or things are happening, those are the things that have been inspired over the course of the days or the weeks as you get yourself into a flow and you're like, so what am I doing this morning? Oh, that's right. I wanted to work on this and I wanted to do it in that way. That'll be so great. And while you're working on that, you get other ideas for other things and you get into a flow. And that flow is all you need. Are there robbers in the world? Are there murderers in the world? Is there war in the world? Are there rapists? Is there pain? Is there suffering? Are there bad relationships? Yes, there are. But you don't have to live that life. One of the best things I ever did for myself when I was in the middle of this journey and I had first been sort of shown the message of like, you get what you believe you get. Which of course, is a very simple one that I kind of always knew, which was like, people who would go around and be like, I always get sick. And they did. They always get sick. And I kind of always had I never get sick. And there was a moment where I started getting sick and I remember that I'd be like, I've been getting sick a lot, and that became my new thing. And I realized no, I never get sick. And I went back to I never get sick, and I never get sick again. I really very rarely get sick. I mean, sometimes I'll get the sniffles and stuff, but as soon as I'll feel myself getting sick or something like that, I just go, I never get sick. I'm healthy. I'm good. And generally speaking, I don't. I really don't get sick very much anymore at all. Once again, and that was my attitude before, until I just went through a bad patch. But the lesson there is don't let yourself change your attitude because you've gone through a bad patch. Because of the different injuries or there are stories that I have of injuries through my past that I had to go through, and I had to go through just different stages of chronic pain. It can be difficult sometimes to just view myself as healed. I am healed, and difficult to sort of think about too, because you sit there and go I'm not sure why my healed state is not being felt by my body as often as I would like it to, but I know that I'm healed and I'm on my way to better and better every day. Like all sorts of little simple affirmations like that. You don't understand what a big deal it is. It's just every single one of them is just sort of a redirecting the flow. And it usually seems like it's not that big a deal because it's just one that you're going to change at first, but it's so many. One flow and another flow and another flow. Am I sitting there worrying about the drivers on the road around me, or am I sitting there being hyper aware, knowing that I'm a great driver? Isn't that nice? Isn't that powerful? Right? When you just shift something so simple as that. Because isn't that the same thing, right? But better? I'm a great driver. I can, I am aware, and there's no such thing. I don't get it. I say, I've never been in a car accident. It's funny. My girlfriend was trying to give me some shit the other day because she was like, because technically speaking, I did get into a minor thing with my motorcycle, which was as I said to her, I think it's a little bit of a cry for help to my mom, because I was having a real shoulder problem and I was stuck in traffic in California for 4 hours, and my shoulder was killing me, and I had a moment where I kind of lost consciousness for 5 seconds from just the pain that I was resisting feeling, because I was trying to hold my shoulder together, and I finally sort of released my shoulder and let it relax, and I did a little bump to the thing, so it's affected her fear energy about things like that. And a couple times she's been like, you got a thing. And there was another thing where her car is very, very low to the ground, her Mustang, and she's got one of those what do you call it? A spoiler when it's on the front of the thing, but it's only a couple inches off the ground, the front. There was just some little piece of the road that you couldn't tell it was there at all, and it just happened to clip a little bit of that thing, and it didn't rip off the whole thing or whatever, but it detached a little bit. So she tried to say to me the other day in like a little bit of an argument or whatever, just like, you did these two things. That's something that'll come up. And I had to go, dude, I've never gotten into a car accident in my entire life. That's, because that spoiler's so low and it was just a bad spot, coming off a ramp or whatever. I'm like, I couldn't tell that it was going to do that. I said, and that friggin' on the motorcycle, that was so specific. And that was a motorcycle, it was a Spider. A Spider has 3 wheels. So like me losing consciousness for a second, I just kind of rolled forward and I just bumped the car in traffic in front of me. So it wasn't a big deal. But again, she's not wrong that yes, those two things happened. But if I use those two things to go, oh no, my perfect track record is broken. No, generally speaking, I still never been in a car accident. I'm a good driver. I've avoided many car accidents. I never get in a car accident, and I never get in a car accident is a great epitaph. I'll say that, and so people will go, oh, knock on wood or whatever. I'm like, well, because you're scared to say something like that. I'm not scared to say something like that. That's a spell that I cast that says I'm okay. I've never been in a car accident. Feels good. I know that my reflexes are really good. I've had people in the car with me as I've fucking avoided massive, like, something that could have been terrible. Like, and I've avoided wrecks because I pay attention and I'm very good. So that kind of thing of like trusting yourself and trusting your energy and knowing who you are and knowing what's right for you, and being able to go, I see what you're saying there, but that's not true. And you're just being, you're in your energy of worrying, because my girl, she can only come from her place. And oftentimes, my girl's very brave on so many levels. It's really kind of incredible how brave she is, considering how many very, very strong kind of fears have been instilled upon her by just the fact that her dad's a police officer and her mom's a little bit of a worrier, a pretty big worrier, and her brother's now a lawyer, older brother. So, those things, the amount of situations and cases that a lawyer deals with, a police officer deals with, that are not the greatest situations. And then they're so close, they're in your universe. The same situation with me where my dad's a rock star, so it seems possible that I'm a rock star. My dad just met this guy who did this, so it seems possible that I might meet this guy who did this. My dad just, heard about this, so it seems possible that that could happen in my universe. But remember, it's this reverse vortex, and we're kind of like being pulled up the tornado. And as your consciousness grows, and if you're a do unto others type person, and you're somebody who's trying to raise your consciousness, trying to do better every day, you're so far away from the vortex, the eye of that storm where these terrible things are going to happen, unless there's something hardwired into your incarnation story that says your story has to end a certain way or is going to go a certain way, because there's ultimately good that will come of it. Like we are weaving our web on the other side through the influence of, unfortunately, a weaker signal of our higher selves who are tuned into God and know enough to be deadly to get us to where we need to get to in our existence, and go next level and be the powerful beings that we are meant to be. Again, it's this, you got at least 51% selfish. You got to be able to choose for you and make sure that you're always choosing right for yourself, so you don't create resentment karma and blockage karma for yourself. So you always got to be your bold self, but then with the rest of your energy, you got to also try to consider the other people and always try to come up with the right answer. Sometimes people will come to blockheads, but, within reason, people can go, all right, well, you go your way and I go my way. And that's great. Like there's always a resolution that can come to things amongst the gods. I'll take that. You take that. Okay, fine. It's really like, it's cool to be peaceful, and it's cool to know, like this, I always tell this story terribly, but there's a great old myth. I'm not sure if it's from the Vedas or whatever, but it's about a monk who was, or a priest monk who was in this temple, and he was the one who was running this temple, and there was a big war, and the power changed hands, and new people came into power, and they sent people to the temple to get him out and take over the temple, and he refused. Just very calmly, just said, I can't do that. And he was this holy man, and it was a little intimidating to these grunts, so they left. And then later, a bigger, sort of bigger deal, sort of general guy kind of came back, and eventually he left because, again, he was sort of intimidated by this this spiritual guy, and then so he gets like a bigger commanding officer kind of thing, and now like the biggest person in the fucking army says, "We can get this motherfucker out of here." Everybody's like spooked by you, but he goes in, and this guy's fucking cool amongst being threatened, his life being threatened, torture being threatened, whatever other things are being threatened upon this man, and he says, "I can't do that. You know, this is my temple, and I'm supposed to guard it." And you know, this general just can't help but sort of respect this thing, and there's just something sort of holy about him. And what's holy about him? What's holy about him is he knows deep down that he's God, that he's powerful. He's made peace with his power. He's not going to use it, but it's there. And this guy can sense it. And then so the new king comes, and he has the same experience. Just oddly intimidated by this man, his poise. Such poise. Poise. It's a wonderful energy, right? The energy of poise. You have such poise. Nice compliment to receive. It's nice to look poised. But to be it, to be just ready for things because you have faith that everything's always working out for you, that you are involved in the planning, and that if you know too much, as we've talked about in other episodes, it's actually less exciting. It's more when you're going through the dark in it, knowing that like it's designed to be fun, that you have the most fun. The highest level of spiritual lessons that I've learned is essentially that like eventually our consciousness will decide that it was more fun when they were scared sometimes, and when like, you know, they were in the dark and it was a little bit more mysterious than they like it when they know all the things, because all the things that they know are just things that they made up anyway. So let's try it again, and let's make up more things, and let's do it again. And they go back to the drawing board. And when I first fucking learned that, I learned it very viscerally, and it scared the hell out of me. Because I just like saw it so clear, like the idea of like being at a place of like, all right, now let's just fucking forget everything. And as somebody who was trying to like learn as much as I could, I was like, all of a sudden I didn't want to learn anything else. I was like, oh my God, stop teaching me things. I don't want to get to that point where I want to be scared of the dragons again. Like, God damn it. You know, it was really like just not what I wanted to hear. But the ultimate lesson was the lesson of the game Genie. For those of you who are a little bit older, you might remember the game Genie. Came out, I think like late 80s or something, and maybe early 90s, and you would plug it into your old school Nintendo NES games, and there was a couple different versions of it, I think, for other systems maybe, but I had one for the Nintendo, and so you'd plug it in, like instead of plugging your Nintendo game into the system, because it was a cartridge system, so you take the cartridge, you put it in the system, you would plug the cartridge onto the Game Genie, then you'd plug the Game Genie into the system, so the Game Genie would be an interface in between the Game Genie and the game, and then there was a booklet that had all of these secret codes that you could put into the Game Genie to change different parameters in the game to make the games easier or more fun or interesting in one way or another. So on the Super Mario Brother game, I changed it to something that was called Moonwalk. And Moonwalk would let you jump to the top of the level. Like you would literally just jump in air. So you would go jump, 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 jump. And if you kept jumping, you wouldn't fall. You would just sort of last longer in the sky. So you could like jump again and again and again. And you literally could just fly across the top of the level. And I mean, I think it was only like a couple characters that could even like possibly hit you in the whole game. So I beat the entire game that I had been like, you know, kind of struggling to get through and get better at or whatever for like ages. I've been like obsessed with it. In 30 minutes, I beat this whole game. I never played it again. Until like years later, just a little bit. Ooh, sorry, my knee. Years later, you know, I got it again. I got the Nintendo system again. I think as a teenager, and I, you know, just kind of going back retro. Oh, it's cool. I remember playing these. But I mean, I literally like, I dropped that game like a bad habit. I hacked the game, and it wasn't fun anymore. And when I was seeing, when I was shown all the things that I was shown, I literally was like, oh my goodness, this game isn't going to be fun anymore. And I begged God to take away the things that he had shown me that made me feel like I wasn't going to enjoy the game as much. And he did. But what he did at the same time was he explained to me that that's what he's doing for everybody. God is the holder of the full bounty of perspective, but nobody wants the true bounty of perspective. God is giving us the amount of perspective that we will most enjoy all the time. But we can go out of our way to try to get additional perspective, not knowing that we are not going to enjoy it as much as we think we will. When I had, the God experience that I had, it was harrowing. You just went, oh my God, like, the more you know, the more you suffer, kind of thing. And it's not even like the more you know, the more you suffer, because like there's suffering, but perspective is rather meaningless. All the meaning comes from this individual perspective that we have as we go through this thing. But there's much larger, more complex and full perspectives based on all of these other parameters that are being held by this one thing in order for us to have a past, present, and a future, and to go through things and have these interactions and have this experience the way we're having it. And it is holding it all together. This one thing is holding all of these perspectives together, and you are simply responsible for guiding your path to meaning. But when you have it from God's perspective, the meaning really it's just neither here nor there. In the face of God and the totality of it, the meanings that we put on things seem silly and stupid, but they're not. And we're meant to just enjoy this to the pinnacle at all times. And where it is that we're at in this consciousness, where we are and we're pinnacle thinking, what we are currently loving, what we're currently thinking about, what we're currently celebrating, who knows what it might be. And sometimes it may be stupid, but doesn't matter. Stupid from God's perspective. Everything is stupid from God's perspective. We're all just a bunch of thoughts imagining things. But from the perspective that we've created here, where things are very real, and that's when we have to go back to the real 3D practical thing of like, this is real, but I am creating it. And I'm creating it to be the thing that I want. And I am powerful. I wrote a song a while back that went, do you want joy or do you want pain? Because what you ask for, you're gonna get in spades. So do you want joy or do you want pain? 'Cause you get what you get and you don't get upset, okay? And I really think that kind of says it all. Do you want joy or do you want pain? Now, before we go today, I want to give you like some secret sauce here on that about this joy or pain thing, and I'll give it to you in just a second. First, if you're into entertainment, you love movies, you love animation, you love comic books, you love music, every week, 6 days a week, Coolest Alive podcast is on. Fridays I do wild card stuff like documentaries and comedians and things like that. But every day I do a comic book, or 1 day a week I do a comic book. 1 day a week I do live action. 1 day a week I do animation. 1 day a week I do an album. It's really great. I've been doing that for a few months now, so it's awesome. If you haven't checked out the show, just like really great. I mean, even like you don't have to listen to the show. Don't tell any of the people that I work with that I said that. But just like if you want just some great recommendations, just go look on the thing, and I mean, usually they're in the title. Sometimes I'm mysterious, but if it's not in the title, then usually it will be in the bread. But usually it's just in the title. Anyway, that's Coolest Alive, and my music celebration show, All Your Favorite Bands Suck, which I've done 52 episodes. I got 2 more on the docket that I've been getting to soon. They are celebrations of my favorite bands, tons of different genres of bands. All Your Favorite Bands Suck. It's available everywhere except for Spotify, but it will be back on Spotify with the new shows soon. And then you can email me at jbs@blacklightdistrict.studio. Blacklightdistrict.studio is my company that creates boutique comic books and boutique music. It's all free on our website. Go read our comics, listen to my music, things I've produced, lots of things that I've written there. We've got an app being made right now. We're going to have a little radio and comic reading app where you can go and read for free, and a lot of cool stuff coming to the website. So check that out. And you can email me whenever you want for whatever reason. I always love hearing from our listeners. Anyway, I hope your new year has been going great, and you rule my school. Thank you for listening to the show and turning this into a bigger thing. We're getting close to 500,000 listeners every 30 days, 500,000 downloads every 30 days, and that's awesome. So thank you so much for being a part of that. So what is this like final piece of information about wanting joy or wanting pain? Well, it's just this, okay? When you make this change, when you know and you've made the change and you're probably in it already, it's not going to be as automatic as you want, especially because the archon voices, the ghosts, anybody who's whispering in your ear, and there's any number of people who could be, those voices are going to get louder. And they're going to get more drastic and sort of desperate. And, you'll find yourself really circling a drain where, like, you'll get over sort of one aspect of a thing, and then there's another aspect of it and another aspect of it. And you got to just keep turning over these boulders until you get, you find your joy. You find a good way to look at it. You find a way to forgive and move on with your life. But do not get discouraged. Not only is it like the feeding frenzy when people are going on these journeys, because we start having really intense, what feels like bipolar and seems like bipolar experiences to lots of people as we're sort of getting towards joy, and we're very joyful, and then we're getting towards that pain because we're having to face it and deal with it. So it can be very alarming and jarring, this experience. Do not get disheartened. That is old energy, and that is old momentum, and that part of it, these other energies outside of you will prey on the fact that you've already, put a lot of energy into being, having a lot of anxiety or being depressed about something or anger about somebody or whatever it might be. It's going to take just as much time going the other way, depending on how much energy you're putting into the other way, before that finally clicks into place and you start to feel like that energy just isn't there anymore. But even though you're not focused on that energy and you don't want that energy, it will keep showing up in your life, albeit in diminished but more intense ways. So usually for lesser periods of time, but very intense energy. And you got to just be able to push through it and know that you're powerful and you are going to get through it. And don't let anybody in your life who starts trying to tell you, well, I don't know, Jeff, this spiritual journey you're on seems like it's like really causing you a lot of trouble in your life and all these things. It literally, the thing that's causing all the trouble and making it so hard is all those people in our life who are whispering in our ears and making us doubt ourselves and feel like we're not doing the right thing and we're not following the path of energy, the path of least resistance for ourselves that doesn't hurt the other people around us, but doesn't hurt us either. I know you can do it. I believe in you. You are powerful. I'm sure many of you are in the midst of this right now, as I am. Though I do believe I'm rounding the back end of this portion of my fucking journey here on Earth. Thank God. And I hope to see us all on the other side of it. Anyway, I love you very much. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And I hope you'll join me again next Sunday for another hopefully mind-blowing episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Peace out.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
It's not a matter of time, sure as the blaze in your eyes. I sense a subtle shift, instincts I can't resist, weary of wolves in disguise.